design. And what we find is that our school leavers are very talented, they're creative, they're imaginative, but this is often combined with their skills in STEM courses. The School of Architecture and Built Environment is located in the beating heart of Adelaide. We house innovation suites and creation studios, as well as cutting-edge software and technologies available to all students. Our students are taught by world-class researchers, and the School of Architecture and Built Environment is known for its expertise in sustainability and humanism. Our graduates, together with our talented alumni, are well equipped to be at the forefront of design innovation. We really look forward to welcoming you to the School of Architecture and Built Environment at the University of Adelaide.
Yeah, people often ask what petroleum engineering is. It's the application of mathematics, physics, geology, engineering and economic principles to the recovery of Earth resources. Students who study our Bachelor of Engineering honours degree in petroleum engineering study an integrated curriculum that's industry applied. From day one, they are taught by our world-leading academic researchers and have many guest lecturers throughout their programme, which include recent graduates up to CEOs of Australian petroleum companies. The Australian School of Petroleum and Energy Resources is ranked first in Australia for petroleum engineering and 7th in the world. We have world-leading fluid flow laboratories, industry-leading software access and high-performance computing facilities. We look forward to seeing you in the Australian School of Petroleum and Energy Resources soon.
Hey everyone, my name is Louisa and I'm a recent graduate from the University of Adelaide, and I'm also a science communicator. Today I'll be having a talk with Ella, who is a current science student, and in true 2020 style, we'll be having a socially distant chat using technology. So on that note, let's say hello to Ella. Hey Ella, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So to start, would you be able to tell me a little bit about what you're currently studying?
Yeah, so I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Science advanced degree, majoring in biochemistry and microbiology and immunology.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty cool degree and a very versatile degree. What have some of the coolest things that you've learned been throughout the degree?
Definitely the coolest thing I've learned is how vaccines work and how they work to protect populations against potentially deadly diseases. I found that very interesting.
Very important at the moment. Vaccines are everything, all that anyone's talking about. So I noticed that you're currently in the labs. Have you spent much time in the labs as a part of your degree?
Yes, definitely. I like to say that I live in the lab, but yeah, this lab here is actually the first lab that I did any of my practicals in first year.
Yeah. So now you've spent a lot of time at the uni in labs. Have you done much time in, I guess, industry labs and placements or anything like that?
Yeah, so I actually had the opportunity to do a summer research placement here at the uni with the Malaria Biology Research Lab. And I was able to work with genetic engineering and changing the genomes of different bacteria and being able to basically alter the structure of a malaria parasite and see how that affects the way that infects red blood cells.
That is very interesting research. I guess my final question for you today would be, what do you hope to do in the future?
In the future, it's kind of wherever it takes me, I guess, at this point, but hopefully completing honours next year and then going into medical research, whether that be working for maybe SAMRI or somewhere in Melbourne or overseas. But yeah, I've got an interest in vaccine research or cancer research.
Well, it's definitely the future at the moment, that vaccine research. Thanks so much for joining us today, Ella. And if you'd like to find out more about Ella's degree, please head to the University of Adelaide's website onto the degree finder and search Science Advanced.
My name's Nigel Dolinek and I'm a horticultural agronomist. I chose to study at the University of Adelaide because of its local and international reputation and the fact that it's the largest research facility in the Southern Hemisphere gives us access to some of the best scientists in the world. The Bachelor of Agricultural Sciences has helped my career in that it's given me the skills and the confidence to engage with other professionals within the horticulture industry. I work in the fruit and vegetable industry, primarily working with strawberry growers, brassica growers, lettuce growers, and hydroponic herbs and Asian vegetables. I see myself moving into an international horticultural company. I've always had a passion for horticulture and the sustainable production of healthy food.
I think working in the chocolate industry is a dream for most people. If I meet someone new and they're like, oh, what do you do? And I say, I'm a project engineer for Hague's. They're like, wow, you actually make the chocolate. It's incredibly important for graduates to be adaptable and flexible. You will not always be in exactly the same career. Why would you want to be? But university teaches you transferable skills that can be applied throughout different careers.
Having a lot of pets growing up and frequenting the vet, I always thought that, you know, there were things that if I were a vet, I might do differently. And I sort of harnessed this as an opportunity to make a difference.
From my placements that I've done out in practice, this hospital definitely seems to be the most advanced that I've been to. So it's really good being able to learn not just on the basic instruments that we'd be using out in practice, but also that little bit extra. That's not necessarily a day one skill for us, but that we can get a bit of an introduction before we go out into practice.
Every year I feel has got more interesting, and especially in the final year, really enjoying putting it all together. And yeah, it's great motivation to look back and review things we've learned earlier because we're seeing it in real life.
It's just been really good, not just from a learning aspect, but also social aspect. You've got plenty of ways to interact with younger year levels, older year levels. It's easier to talk to different lecturers.
When they have a case that comes in, one of us has to take ownership of it, and we really have to run that case like we were the actual vet. We can't just be students anymore. We do actually have to make sure we know what questions to ask, where to leave the consult, where we can go for treatment. So they've organised it really well to try and get us to be more independent, especially leading up to graduating, because this is stuff that we do need to know.
I'm in charge of one of the patients in the hospital at the moment, and I'm really enjoying being responsible, and it definitely is a good confidence builder, feeling like, you know, this could be me, this will be me next year, and having great support around to talk to about any questions or concerns and discussing plans going forward with the patient. So it's been great.
I find most of the clients coming through the clinic, they are quite polite. And they're very understanding that this is a teaching hospital, especially in terms of communication. We're sometimes not as confident or fluent as a clinician.
A couple of staff, say, if you have any problems, like text me if you have a question at midnight or something. A lot of them are quite open. Yeah, the resources are fantastic.
So in the final year, the students' clinical rotations are really a crowning piece of training for them. We view them as our junior colleagues on all of those core rotations, so that would be companion animal. And as our junior colleagues, they get to be really coming to grips with all of the skills that you need when you're truthfully out in practice.
Clinicians in private practice know it's a really great comfort to know there's such a facility that patients can be referred to, and we're really lucky to be spending time with specialists in such a great facility.
All of our homes, our food, our transportation, all involve chemical engineering. So a question I get asked often is, what is chemical engineering? We combine biology, physics and chemistry, along with mathematics, to produce the products that society needs.
Chemical engineering is all about converting raw materials into finished products, which we use in our everyday life. The University of Adelaide provides me with a platform to develop my personal and professional skills, which makes me competitive for the job market.
So I chose the University of Adelaide for its great reputation in chemical engineering.
Here in school, you have the opportunity to work in the world-class labs, which host the most advanced analytical equipment in the world.
Please consider chemical engineering as a career choice. We would welcome you to the school and help you make those choices to make your future brighter.
I chose winemaking because it was the marriage of art and science, which are my two basic passions. My name is Sam Burketta, and I'm the head winemaker at Alpha Box and Dice Winery in McLandale. I feel like my degree from the University of Adelaide has really helped me get into the wine industry. I'm involved in every aspect of the winemaking industry, from growing the grapes, looking at managing vineyards, to making the wines, and all the way through to sales and the business end of the winemaking industry. Whilst I was studying at University of Adelaide, I was working weekends at Serafino Wines in McLandale. I found it really helped to support the theoretical knowledge I was learning at the University of Adelaide, while still providing me with new pathways to learn and new techniques. After finishing their degree at Uni of Adelaide, I've got friends that are winemakers in different parts of the country. Since day one, I've never looked back. It's been quite an amazing adventure.
After I finished my college in China, I went to California for my first vintage. And I realized that actually a lot of things I still don't know, and something I don't understand. So that's why it made me come down to the University of Adelaide, I think, which is famous for their winemaking course. I think have a solid background of chemistry, biology. That's help you understand what happens in the wines. But actually, besides this kind of chemical things, the winemaker is actually, you need creativity too. Because sometimes it can be an artist. You need some imagination to make your blending. To be a winemaker, I think the first step, you have to get your hands dirty. The winemaking is a hard job, especially during vintage. It feels like looking after the child. So when you look at your child grow up, I think that's the most rewarding part of this job. So when people are sleeping, you have to take care of your baby. Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Louisa and I'm a recent graduate from the University of Adelaide, and I'm also a science communicator. Today I'm actually on campus in one of the Fast-Smith Library study rooms to have a catch up with Ben, who is a current science student. In true 2020 style, we're going to be having a socially distant catch up using technology. So on that note, let's say hello to Ben. Hey Ben, thank you for being here today.
No worries.
So to start, can you tell me what you're currently studying?
Yeah, I'm studying Bachelor of Science, Space Science and Astrophysics.
Sounds like a really interesting degree, but what actually is astrophysics?
Astrophysics is the study of all things out in space and how they work. So from looking at planetary systems all the way up to things like black holes.
Definitely is very interesting then. So why did you choose to study at Adelaide University?
I chose to study at Adelaide because I found that it was the only university in the Southern Hemisphere that offered a named degree in astrophysics.
That is very convenient and in your hometown. So while you have been studying, what have been some of your highlights?
Some of the highlights have definitely been learning some coding languages that I didn't even know existed before starting my study, and really seeing how useful they've been in solving problems.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really enjoy coding. So have you had the opportunity to undertake any project work or placements with established scientists?
Yeah, I have. I got an opportunity over summer last year to work in the physics department on a summer research scholarship, where I was developing a piece of software that's currently used for the Cherenkov telescope array and analysing that, which is a global collaboration.
Awesome, really cool to see you got to bring your programming and coding skills into that placement. So something else that is pretty cool is the Australian Space Agency opened some of its offices earlier this year right next door in Lot 14. What has this meant to you and your passion for space science and astrophysics?
Yeah, it's been a really exciting thing seeing it all open up. It's hopefully going to open up a lot of doors of opportunity for employment once they graduate, as they get it more established and start taking people on.
Yeah, well, speaking of graduation, what do you hope to do once you have completed your degree?
I'm hoping to get into research somewhere in astrophysics. Not really sure where yet. There's a lot of opportunities and different paths I could take, but I'm excited to see where that goes.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ben. If you'd like to learn more about Ben's degree, head to the University of Adelaide's website and in Degree Finder, search Space Science and Astrophysics.
Ingenuity is a showcase of our final year student project work, And so that means that we have students in their final years of 3 or 4 year undergraduate degrees all across their engineering schools, mathematics and computer science, celebrating their final project work, their work with industry, and communicating it to the open public. So this year we have over 700 students celebrating over 300 projects.
I love the celebration of students with great ideas. I love to see students being role models for kids coming through, and I love to learn as well.
I think they're always a little bit daunted about it at the beginning. You know, we talk about it as being this big expo where there'll be engineering students, but I think it's the connection with the university students and actually getting to see the hands-on projects.
There's a lot more things you can do than I thought. There's a lot more options and you can do whatever you want really. Just like follow your passion.
Some of the projects I've seen today are extremely exciting. They're innovating at every level, from materials to software to applications.
The best part about working on our research project was learning a new area that was beyond the current curriculum and kind of becoming a specialist in that area.
Watching the students' faces and to see them develop over the day of Ingenuity. When they start out, when they're first talking with our industry partners on the industry night, they are so nervous. And by the end of the day, they are filled with confidence and they're filled with so much excitement about the project work that they've done, and they're filled with confidence to be able to enter their careers. And I think that's what the favourite thing is for me.
Okay, bear with me for 2 seconds while we get the Zoom set up properly. While I am stalling and talking very slowly, here is a science joke. What do you call an acid that has a bad attitude? Amino acid. Thank you, Holly. Okay, and then I've just got to hide this one. Yeah, I was going to start things off with a chemistry joke, but I was afraid I wouldn't get a reaction. The pity, there's like one small pocket of the room that's genuinely laughing and everyone else is just like, please stop this beard with a tiny little man hanging off of it from talking. Tom, save me.
I will. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us and welcome to the University of Adelaide STEM Careers Night. My name is Tom, as Ari has suggested, and I work here at the university in the Faculty of Engineering, Computer and Mathematical Sciences.
And I'm Ari, I'm from the Faculty of Sciences. We will be your MCs for tonight. So we're going to have a bit of a look at some of the latest and greatest developments in the STEM industries across a variety of different areas and how they link to degrees. You'll also get to hear from our STEM Academy program, one of our lovely students, and then 3 graduates of the university as well.
Before we go any further though, we do have people joining us on our campus, which is fantastic, but we also have people joining us online from all across South Australia and interstate. So I'd first of all just like to acknowledge where we meet on campus, but also pay my respects to all First Nations people. So we meet on the North Terrace campus, which is on the lands of the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the Adelaide Plains region. It's on this land that not only our North Terrace campus is based, but also our Waite and Roseworthy campus. So I'd just like to pay my respects to the Kaurna people and the Kaurna elders, both past, present and emerging, and to all First Nation people, and to acknowledge their ongoing relationship with their country.
Before we go any further, we do have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. In the case of an emergency, you will hear a very loud noise and it will go on for a really long time. Please follow directions from University of Adelaide staff. We're all branded. It's pretty easy to spot us and we'll get you out safely. If you need to go to the bathroom during the session, for those of you who are here with us in person, please just head into the foyer. There's staff there, they'll point you in the right direction. If you're at home, I believe it's the second door on the left. I hope the Zoom people are chuckling at that one at least. If you do have questions throughout the session, we are actually doing things a little bit differently, so differently that my clicker doesn't work. So I'm just going to keep talking for a few seconds. We are actually going to be doing questions online. So there will be an opportunity to talk to our panel at the end of the session. So we'll be doing all of our questions through Poll Everywhere. So that way the people that are at home and the people that are here with us today will be able to ask their questions all at the same time. So if you scan the QR code that's on the screen, you'll be able to get into Poll Everywhere and submit questions as you think of them. Don't bottle them up. If you think of something, send it through. Similarly, at the bottom of every single slide, there will actually be that link that you can see on the screen now. So you'll be able to use that to go to the page as well if for whatever reason you close the tab or anything there. Don't be afraid to ask your questions. We're more than happy to answer them. So we'll have our graduates, our current student, and a couple of university staff members for some of those more admissions-based questions as well.
Yep, fantastic. So as the name of this event suggests, we are here to talk about STEM careers, but also the world in which these careers are going to be starting to play a pivotal role going forward. So to summarize, a STEM professional is someone who uses the principle of science and mathematics and applies them to a range of different problems. They are someone who can look at the world around them and apply those principles to solve those problems, because a STEM professional is someone who is curious, someone who utilizes their creativity to look at the world around them, address these issues, and work towards positive solutions. Because that's what a STEM professional is at its core. It's a problem solver. And there are a lot of problems that we're facing right now. Up on screen, you'll be able to see the 17 goals for sustainable development. Have any people in the room seen these goals before? Cool, a lot of hands, a lot of people without their hands up. So these
Does anyone have an injury that is preventing them from lifting their hand up? If you could please lift your hand up.
So if you haven't, if you haven't seen these goals before, these are actually 17 goals the United Nations has put together and identified as the 17 most pressing issues that we face as a global society that we need to tackle by 2030 to have a more sustainable and equitable future. And these are the challenges that we face, and every single one of them is going to require someone with a STEM skill set to be able to solve, because a STEM professional is way more than just a discipline knowledge. It's someone who is able to assess issues and apply a critical and analytical mindset to solving them. A great thing that you won't have to face as a STEM professional is employability issues. We are currently living in the fourth industrial revolution with integration of machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data, and with that there comes so many opportunities for people who are skilled in these spaces. But as I mentioned, it's more than just actually having the discipline skills. It's about the interdisciplinary knowledge as well. So at university, we prepare you more than just for one particular area. We prepare you to continue to learn. So the skills that are needed by industry, and the reason why STEM professionals are so in demand is because they're active learners. So what that means is you're not just learning one thing and sticking with it for your entire career. You're being taught how to learn. So it's the active learning, it's those problem solving skills, but it's also the communication. Because STEM professionals are going to have to be working with people from all different industries, we actually need people who are able to communicate their ideas effectively. And these are all the things that are leading to this massive growth in this field. And it's why these STEM professionals are in so high demand. But the great thing is, not only are you going to be solving world problems, you're going to be well compensated for doing it. So some of the highest paying careers in South Australia are within the STEM industries. So there's great opportunity, there's great opportunity to have an impact in the positive direction, but you can also get really well paid to do it.
Thanks, Tom. So yeah, it's a really good point though that those skill sets, because the thing is technology is evolving so ridiculously fast that if we started teaching you at the start of your degree to the technology of the day, by the time you got to the end of the degree, that technology would already be somewhat outdated. So that's why that skills-based education approach is so important, because it allows you to adapt and evolve as technology continues to evolve. And that's a really, really important skill set for STEM graduates. And that's why it's the core focus of our learning and teaching. Students in the room, let's do an age check. Does anyone know what a VHS cassette is? Okay, we're not that far along. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay, so at the University of Adelaide, we are a fantastic place to learn science, technology, engineering, and mathematics degrees. We are really highly ranked in the world, but also in South Australia. But the thing I really wanted to draw your attention to was the research. Now, I know most of you are probably traumatized from the research project, but it is a really important thing, is that 100% of our STEM research is rated at or above world standard. And what that means in practice is that the same people who are teaching our students are the same people who are leading this research. So we integrate our research staff into teaching to make sure that our students are getting access to the latest and greatest innovations, opportunities to work side by side with people who are leading the charge. A really good example of this at the moment is that one of the people who teaches into our biomedical sciences degree was actually one of the lead advisors for SA Health during the pandemic in managing the spread in South Australia. So this is someone who's actually teaching students in a degree related to viruses and diseases. So it's a really good opportunity to hear from people who are still active and on the ground. They're not just people who are teaching to keep the lights on. These are people who are very, very active in their industries as well. And speaking of industry, we have a very large number of industry partners across our 3 campuses that are co-located with us here. That gives you a lot of opportunities to get exposure to industry. We have internship opportunities built into most of our degrees. If a degree doesn't have any sort of work placement built into it, there's also options for you to add it to your studies. They are unpaid usually, so just keep that one in mind, but there's plenty of opportunities for you to engage with industry. And we often get our industry professionals to come along and be guest lecturers and do specialist courses for our students as well. So what we're going to do now is go through a few of the areas that are growing at the moment and connect them to some of the degrees that are available to the University of Adelaide students. So first up is agriculture, food and wine. This is an area that is very near and dear to my heart. As you can probably tell, I do like my food. But agriculture is a huge part of South Australia's economy, and it's a big part of Australia as a whole. As a planet right now, we have the largest population we've ever had before. And as a result of that comes all sorts of new challenges. You need to be able to feed everyone and make sure that people have access to good quality food. And the challenge with that is you can't just plant more stuff. Good agricultural land is limited, resources are limited, they're not being used effectively and efficiently. So it's a huge industry to evolve and rapidly grow. In fact, agriculture is one of the most technologically evolving industries. It's growing quite a lot faster than most people would think. It's not just tractors and farms. There are people using drones to remotely monitor the health of their crops. There's now a lot of work with satellite data to try and improve processes even further. So there's not more land. We need to grow more food. How do we do it? Options include things like vertical farming, adding urban farms and gardens into city areas on top of skyscrapers as well. We have a great research institute here at the university who are fighting food waste. So every year, several million tons of potatoes go to waste because they're deemed to not be pretty enough to go on supermarket shelves. They might have a strange shape or a strange color, and so they go to waste. The farmers don't get paid for them and no one eats them. So what we've done instead is this research institute has turned these potatoes into a pre-packaged puree product that can be used for multiple purposes, including ice cream. Yeah. It sounds gross, but I kid you not, it tastes really good. It's vegan, so they use soy milk. They use a little bit of oil and some sugar and some secret sauce, and they basically go through and make an ice cream substitute for vegans out of potatoes. I am lactose intolerant, so I greatly appreciate this development. It's very important to me, and we've had it at our open day in 2019. We might even have it again this year. Hint, come to open day. But it was really good, and we ended up running out and having to send someone back to the Wake campus to get more stuff because people just kept coming back for more. So there's lots of different areas in this industry. I should probably actually talk about more relevant things. So as you can see, there's a huge range of degrees available. So agricultural sciences is focusing on the practices used to grow the crops that are used to make our food. Food and nutrition science is really all about turning that food into a marketable and viable product, making sure that it's safe for human consumption and understanding how it impacts the human body. It's not just enough to make food, it has to be of sufficient nutritional value as well to make it worth selling as well. We've got viticulture and enology for those who are thinking about wine as a career option. There's a huge amount of work that needs to go into this industry in improving waste. You can look at turning the shells of the grapes, so the char that comes left, into a biofuel by going into something like chemical engineering. So turning that waste product into something useful that can be used to power the future or to power some of these different industries. Data analytics, as we integrate more technology into the industry, there's going to be a need for people to process large data sets and turn them into actionable insights as well. And of course, we have the animal aspects of agriculture as well.
Cool. And another area that's really taking off is in the defense, cyber and space. The careers in this field are growing so fast. They are out of this world. Cool. I was really hoping that joke would land because I'm not the funny one. It's Ari. But something that did land this year, it's really exciting, is the Mars rover. So did many people follow the news this year with the new Perseverance rover landing? Yep. Cool. We're seeing exciting developments like that come around more and more often. So it's a really exciting time to be in a space like this. Along with the rover landed the first ever Martian helicopter, Ingenuity, and we're seeing test footage come back from that now, and it's such an exciting time to be involved in it, because the space industry kind of tapered off for a little while after the initial missions to the moon. But now we're actually seeing this rapid development. We're seeing innovation come through it. A little bit closer to home this year, we hosted the Australian Rover Challenge, where university students from around Australia designed and built lunar and Mars rovers, and they brought them down to the University of Adelaide for a global competition where they essentially got to test them in these simulated lunar environments. Really exciting stuff. And then we've also seen rapid development in the space agency. So the space agency is just across the road at Lot 14, literally across the road from us just here. And with that, they've just launched their Trailblazer program. So this one's a little bit newer. The Trailblazer program is the Australian Space Agency's contribution to the global efforts to get us to Mars by basically looking at the infrastructure that we can contribute to with NASA. So looking at how we can set things up on the moon, how we can set things up on Mars, and with that comes so many different opportunities for you to get careers in this space. Space, I need to avoid the word. With that as well, there's so many other careers. I'll kind of go to this, but whether you're looking to get into looking at understanding the science of it, understanding the actual matter of space itself, you could look at studying space science and astrophysics. You could look at designing the craft that are getting us there, whether that's looking at designing the next iteration of the Mars rover or designing satellites. You could get into it through engineering, whether that's mechanical or electrical and other allied disciplines. You could also be looking at the core discipline that underpins all of this, physics. There are so many different ways that you can get involved in the space industry. And there's way more than we'd even be able to cover tonight, because there's so much that's happening in that area, avoid the word space, that you can be supporting, because there's a lot happening. Within South Australia, there's also a lot happening within the defence industries. So we've got a defence hub down in Port Adelaide, which is working on the next generation of shipbuilding projects and submarines. So we're training graduate technologists and engineers to work in this field on actually developing, maintaining and retrofitting some of the submarines and ships that are happening down in that area. There's also some really exciting development over at Lot 14 and in South Australia in general in the field of computer science, AI, and machine learning. The University of Adelaide is really well placed because we have the Australian Institute of Machine Learning as a part of our institution even, and they are a world leader. They're ranked #2 in the world for machine learning and robotic vision research, and that all filters down into our teaching. So as we're entering this 4th industrial revolution, we really need more people who can understand big data sets. We need more people who can integrate these systems into existing technology, whether that's in information technology, people who can design new infrastructure through computer science. There's so many different ways that you can get involved. Something that's kind of special that's happening this year is kind of like a trial. The Australian government is looking at unbundling some of the existing degrees to offer shorter courses. So if you're looking to study with us in the next 6 months, there's a number of people who are looking to potentially study in the middle of the year. This is a really exciting opportunity to make the most of. So these are called higher education certificates. They're 6-month qualifications that allow you to get a bit of a taster for some of these fields, come away with a qualification in cybersecurity, applied data analytics, data science, or technology. And then you could potentially go on to study the full degree if you'd like, or you can choose to go off into another discipline. So this one is only running for this year at this point, but it's a really exciting opportunity if it is relevant for you. We've spoken a lot about technology and innovation, but every single one of the things we've spoken about needs power and it needs the resources to make it all possible. So energy mining and resources is another field that is experiencing a lot of growth as well. So in South Australia, we've seen developments in some of our mining processes. So up in the states north, back in 2019, a brand new copper gold mine was opened up in Carrapateena. And these resources are essential for our renewable energy future because they are needed for our wind turbines, they're needed for our solar panels, and to be able to set up that renewable infrastructure. Really cool thing is you can get involved in a lot of different ways. So South Australia is also looking to become a global powerhouse for renewable energy. So the South Australian government is looking to produce more renewable energy than it needs by 2030, and then start to actually export that to the global energy market. So they're looking at setting up hydrogen-powered hydrogen production and hydrogen exporting so they can have that global stake. So there's so many ways that you could get involved. So you could be looking at that future energy resources, whether that's through a Bachelor of Engineering and focusing on a major in renewable technologies. And because our future energy resources are so diverse, you can become a renewable energy focused engineer through civil engineering, electrical, mechanical, environmental, or even chemical. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach some of these problems. Or you could also look at helping us transition to that renewable energy future with some of our more traditional resource sectors, whether that's through petroleum or mining engineering. Something that's really cool is that because of the fourth industrial revolution, we're seeing big data be incorporated across the board. So in 2019, the South Australian government ran a global competition where they basically uploaded all of the data about all of our mines up to basically on the internet, and ran a competition that said, hey, this is where we found things in the past. Can you use big data sets to actually analyze where we might find things in the future by running that through algorithms and basically taking in all of the information that we have available? So even in this field, we're seeing uses for applied data analytics and big data sets. So there's a lot of really cool ways that you can get involved in transitioning us to that renewable energy future.
So I've just had a bit of a look around the room, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling like it's a little bit stuffy in here. So I'm going to put my foot on the gas and blitz through these last ones a little bit quicker, because I feel like the big benefit for you will be hearing from our graduates. So for those of you at home at Zoom, I can't comment on whether or not your house is of a particular temperature, but just imagine that we're all a little bit stuffy and hot in here. So sorry about that if you're sitting in the air conditioning. So next up is environmental sustainability, which I probably shouldn't have just talked about air conditioning because it's not super great for the environment, but we get there, we get there. So we are currently facing a climate crisis globally, and as a result, we need to take steps across the board in multiple different industries, in multiple different areas to try and reduce our impact on the environment, but also look at regenerating the environment. This is a global problem. This is a fantastic area of study for people who are interested in a global career. I know travel is something that we all can barely remember at the moment, but it will come back one day, and you will be able to take a career here all over the world, because the same principles will apply in different areas as well. There are plenty of different ways to get involved in climate. So you can go for a more human-focused approach through construction management or architectural design, which is all about building practices, understanding sustainable design principles, and existing within particular environments and making buildings hardier to survive in particular climates too. So for example, working and building earthquake-proof buildings or buildings that are more resilient in drier climates. On the other hand, you can also go for a more natural world focus. So you could do wildlife conservation. That's both plants and animals. Australia's animals and plants and natural resources are really, really important to us. They're a really important part of our national identity, and they do need to be protected and they do need to be preserved. There are a huge amount of career opportunities in this area. As mining projects close down, as disasters occur, there are regeneration efforts that go into place. It's not a simple process. You can't dig a ditch, put some water in it, plant a couple of trees and call it a day. It's a multi-year process that can take decades to get settled. Ecosystems are a very delicate thing, and the slightest imbalance can throw them out completely. So it is something that requires constant surveillance and constant effort. You can also look at incorporating data here. You may notice the theme that we're talking about data a lot. It is a really big emerging area in Australia, and it's got some very high paying jobs because people are generally a little bit not okay with doing maths in school and then going on and doing it. So as a result, they keep bumping up the salaries of these maths-based jobs to try and attract really strong and compelling candidates, hint if you like maths. But people in data analytics can be looking at focusing on predictive modeling to try and work out where natural events will occur, where resources will dry up, and to try and introduce intervention strategies to prevent that from occurring. In terms of health and biotechnology, this has obviously been an area that people have learned a lot about in the last few months. And as a result, there are plenty of different opportunities. Adelaide is positioning itself to be the biomedical capital of Australia. We've got the biomedical precinct just down the road, which includes the new Royal Adelaide, the giant pineapple/cheese grater, also known as the South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute. SAMRI 2 is also under construction, and that will include the first proton therapy machine, which will help lead the fight against cancer. So there is a huge drive for biomedical innovation in South Australia in particular, and there is a huge range of opportunities available to get you into that career. Now, I think this is a really good one that actually illustrates how integrated these different areas are. Quite often when you look at a brochure, you think each degree is unique and distinct. Some of them will have crossover in classes, but when you go out into the world and employability, you'll all be working side by side. A biomedical scientist is all about discovery, understanding the human body and things that afflict the human body. It has a very big focus on infectious diseases and understanding how they impact humans, how they bond with them, and trying to look at ways to prevent that from occurring or reduce the impact on it. Whereas biotechnology is more about the commercialization of that discovery. And then medical technologies for engineering is about building the machines and resources that support that process. And pharmaceutical engineering is about the medications that will then implement that into practice. So you can see that all of these areas work together to create a stronger healthcare system. And that's a system that's going to keep evolving thanks to data. You're going to get so sick of that word. But ever since the Human Genome Project, we are able to map the individual genetic structure of a human. We are very advanced computers, and there is a lot of information in us. And so as a result, it takes someone with a high-level data analytics skill to go through that information. One of the future directions of healthcare will be personalized medicine. So rather than getting a one-size-fits-all medication and hope that you're one of the X% of people it is effective for, the medication will be able to be tailored to your individual genetic structure to make sure that it works 100% of the time. So that is something that is quite sci-fi, but it is something that is being worked on and something that could potentially be coming in the next couple of decades. Hopefully sooner. Technology keeps speeding up. Me. Nailed it. Something we are very proud of at the University of Adelaide is our student experience. That's why we've got all those lovely rankings up there. We are really proud of our student support here. Both sciences and engineering have student support teams. As soon as you get into the degree, go in and see them. They will create a personalized study plan for you. You tell them what you're interested in within your degree, and they will help out map your studies out and make sure that you can go through that enrollment process nice and smoothly. If there's any issues, they can fix them for you on the spot. If you start something and you go, it's not quite right, don't panic, go and see them, especially in those first couple of weeks, because they can change it for you quite quickly, or at least help you navigate the pathway. If you start in one degree with the goal of getting into another, tell them and they'll help you set up that pathway as well. So the more information you give us, the better we can support you. But there's also a lot of academic support available. So the Faculty of Engineering has a first-year maths drop-in centre. Because there are quite a large number of students who do mathematics across all the different degrees, there is a specialised dedicated first-year centre. But then the university also has a maths learning centre that covers all of the remaining years as well. So you've got a couple of options there. There's a writing centre which will do a nice bit of support on self-serve resources on things like referencing, report writing, lab report writing. We also have a physics, biology and chemistry drop-in centre available on the North Terrace campus. There are peer mentors available. There are peer-assisted study sessions that I would strongly recommend you go to a couple of. If you've kind of got a question and you're too afraid to ask your teacher, go and ask one of your peers. They probably were confused by it too. I personally am not good at asking for help. So when I was at uni, yes, I know it was a long time ago, stop it. But when I went, I actually had a peer mentor, and it was good for me to ask those kinds of questions because I was afraid to ask the person who would be marking my assignments something, because I was worried that they would remember that when they're marking my assignments, go, oh, it's that guy who didn't know this really basic thing. So it's a great resource there. We have a doctor on campus. We have a counselling service, a disability support service, an elite athlete service, and a lot of other things available to you as well. So the most important thing is we are here for you. You just have to come and ask for help. So many students wait until the problem is big before they go and ask for help. If you're falling a little bit behind, just go and ask for help. We can intervene and help you through that process. A really good example of this is the university's career service. Almost every student doesn't go and see them until their final year when they're about to transition into employment, and that is a real waste of their skills and talents. The Career Service will create a degree-length career plan for you, which will include resume writing workshops, networking events, potentially extra internship opportunities, and even mock job interview training. So go and see them early, lock in a schedule with them. If you change your degree, if you change your mind, you can update that as well, but you're getting the most benefit out of it in that 3 to 4 years while they're studying with us. I'd now like to introduce Liz, who is from the STEM Academy.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you all. Really excited to see you come and learn more about STEM at the University of Adelaide. My name is Liz, and this is Holly, and we're going to talk to you about STEM Academy. So can I get a raise of hands from anyone who is in year 12 at the moment? Ooh, so many hands. That's great to see. Anyone in year 11? Okay, a few less. That's all right. Any younger year levels? Okay, good. Some keen beans. That's great. So the information we're going to tell you now is going to be really important for the year 12s in the room, but also for the future year 12s. So, you know, your year 11s now, you will like to think about this information moving forward.
Okie doke. So my name is Holly. I'm a STEM ambassador with the STEM Academy. I might have seen some of you in your classrooms as part of the STEM Academy. Well, essentially, let me start with this. The STEM Academy is an outreach program. And what we really care about is making sure that we inspire and encourage the next generation of scientists and engineers who come through are going to leave the world a better place. You might have seen me in some of your classrooms. We come out and deliver wonderful, colorful science workshops. But the other part of our program is actually where we get year 12s to sign up with us as part of our year 12 stream. And for the year 12s in the room, this will be really interesting for you to listen to. And Liz has got some important information on you on that front.
So as we've mentioned, there is a year 12 stream of the program. So again, as I mentioned, year 12s in the room, listen up. So you can actually sign up to the STEM Academy yourself directly. There's a lot of benefits on offer. For example, you can get invitations to exclusive events, which are in relation to STEM, such as industry nights, networking events. We also run a number of workshops for you that you can sign up for directly. And one of the really exciting components of the program is you can receive an early conditional offer into a range of STEM degrees. So before you even sit your exams and receive your formal results, you receive an early conditional offer, which is very exciting. So I definitely recommend that you join the program.
So this was really fun, and I can actually see a couple of you in the room who know exactly what I'm talking about because you attended. So one of the things that as part of the STEM Academy that we offer for those who sign up are, you could call them exclusive STEM workshops that we offer here on campus at the University of Adelaide. They are developed by academics. And when I say academics, I mean the professors who teach me in my third year degrees. Well, they design and deliver these workshops to you guys as year 12s. So if you think about that, that's an amazing opportunity to figure out what's interesting at the uni and what your lecturers are going to look like, and the research, frankly, that you could be a part of. My favorite part of that was making bioplastics out of potato starch. But as you'll find out, I'm a geologist, so I thought that figuring out how mountains move is also a wonderful experience. But yes, that's an example of some of the really cool stuff you get to be a part of as an exclusive offer when you sign up with the STEM Academy.
So in terms of the eligibility, basically you have to be studying South Australian Year 12 studies. So that's either SACE or IB. And you also have to be enrolled in an eligible STEM subject. So those are agricultural production, agriculture, agricultural systems, biology, chemistry, earth science and environmental sciences, nutrition, physics, scientific studies, maths methods, and specialist maths. So if you're enrolled in one of those subjects in your year 12 studies and you're currently in SACE stage 2 and you have an interest in STEM, I definitely recommend that you sign up to the STEM Academy. If you're wondering how you might do that, you can scan this QR code, or you can visit the website, which is adelaide.edu.au/STEM/academy. You can also contact us over the phone or via email. It's free to join, and you get, access to a lot of cool activities and your early conditional offer. So definitely sign up with us. So now you're going to hear a little bit more about Holly and her experience as a current student. So I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. All right, so I'm really excited to be presenting to you guys because this is absolutely something that I would have gone to as a high school student. So a bit about me. My name is Holly and I'm a Bachelor of Science Advanced student, but my major is geology. And I had no idea what geology meant maybe 3.5 years ago, because I actually signed up to this university wanting to pursue a vibrant career in physics. I was really interested in going into space sciences and astrophysics. And also, I was enrolled in a double degree in politics, philosophy, and economics because I have an artsy side. And I was initially interested in integrating policy with an understanding of science. But I took an elective in geology in first year and it stole my heart. And here I am now as a geology student 3 years later. So my experience as a student has been wonderful. A really cool thing I've been a part of research-wise, I haven't even finished my degree yet. And I'll tell you what I've been doing over my summer. Over my summer, I have been crushing up rocks in a lab and isolating a little mineral called zircon. And that zircon is telling me about an asteroid impact crater in the middle of the Eyre Peninsula that occurred right when the first complex life was emerging in the Flinders Ranges. And I just think that's unbelievable. I think it's a neat crossover between wanting to explore space sciences and astrophysics from the perspective of an earth sciences major. So I think that's a really cool thing for me to reflect on, that I haven't actually graduated with my degree yet, and I'm developing mentors, I'm developing skills, and I'm developing research skills in my area of study already. I wanted to go to Adelaide Uni because I wanted to keep my studies local. My family's all based here. I was happy to take it slow. I was also really impressed by the research output. And if you're interested in physics, then you'll know that our physics department actually has a really vibrant research output at the moment. LIGO, anyone been keeping on top of gravitational waves and LIGO? Yeah, okay, cool. So a lot of our academic staff there are on top of what's going on worldwide on an international stage with our physics. I am aware that there can be anxieties around leaving high school and entering university. I certainly had my fair share. I said I wanted to be a physics major, but I wasn't that good at maths. And I turned to geology because I found a new love. But I want everyone who might be nervous about their math skills or feel like they don't have the competency to pursue a science career, I want you to know that there is an astounding amount of resources available to you. We have the first year Maths Help Centre. We have the Writing Centre. We've got past sessions. There is absolutely no excuse that you shouldn't pursue what you absolutely love and have a passion for, because we're here to support you with it. And it's just about having the confidence in yourself and having the love for science within you. Another thing I was kind of nervous about entering the universities, finding friends. And I can assure you that that isn't a problem either. A bit of personal advice would be, once you get into uni and you start studying what you want to study, what you've spent your life thinking you want to study, what you'll find is you'll become unapologetic about what you like learning, and you'll become unapologetic about how you learn it. And that kind of energy attracts real, genuine friendships, and it attracts real mentors. So if you have any worries about not finding your crew, or not finding, maybe you don't have a gang at high school that sort of sits well with what you want to do in life, know that when you come into university, you will just absolutely be slingshotted into a group of people who care about the same things that you do. And that was definitely something I was worried about. And it took me all of 3 days at O Week to get over myself. So I'm also a STEM ambassador with the STEM Academy. And it is hands down one of my favorite things that I have ever done in my life, maybe ever. And that's because I get to go out and present workshops to secondary high school kids. And these workshops are geared towards, I say inspiring, but really sometimes young kids can be scared of maths, and they can be scared of the technical jargon that sometimes science likes to shroud itself with. And the way that me and my friends in the STEM Academy who work there deal with that is by telling stories. And because we know that there are stories inside, for those of you who are physics nerds, there are stories inside stars, and there are stories within the Milky Way, and there are stories within blood cells, and there are stories in cancer cells. And for me, there are stories in rocks and minerals. One of my favorite stories is actually about volcanoes. I'm a geologist, so my favorite stories are about glaciers, and they're about tectonics, and they're about how the face of the planet has changed over the last 1 billion years. And we actually know that. We actually know what the continents and what the oceans look like as far back as 1 billion years. And that's something that my professors sit down with me over a cup of coffee and talk about. And so I want you to know that when you come in here and you form relationships here at the University of Adelaide, you're doing so in the interest for yourself. You're doing it for the interest and the love that you have for science, and you're doing it to set up a career for yourself. And I say that with a bit of hesitancy, because I don't think you should be signing up for science solely with a career in mind. I think you sign up for science because you love learning, and you sign up for science because you want to leave the world a better place. And after that, I can guarantee you a successful career will follow. But you have to start with your love for making the world a better place. And you have to start with your love for building if you like engineering. But mainly for me, it's actually about licking rocks and getting out into nature. So with that, thanks for listening to me ramble on, and I will pass it over to Ari.
Thanks, Holly. It's great to hear from a current student, because, you know, like people like Tom and I, we live and breathe the university at on a very different wavelength. But for Holly, this is her day-to-day life, and she really likes rocks. I had a rock.
So lucky I didn't ramble more.
So what we're going to do now is invite our lovely panel of graduates to have a seat for us. So we've got 3 graduates here from various different areas of study, and we're really excited just to do a quick little intro with them. After they've all introduced themselves, we will open up to a full Q&A session. So if you have not yet submitted questions, please make sure you go on to Poll Everywhere and do so. Again, the link is at the bottom of the screen. If you have questions about the STEM Academy, Liz will also be here to answer things around the eligibility, the early offer process, and so on as well. So anything at all, we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can with the time that we have. So we'll go through and each person will introduce themselves. So I'll start with Lily. Lily, could you turn your mic on and just introduce yourself for everyone, please?
Hi, everyone. Is it on?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yes, cool. Hi, my name's Lily. I am an optoelectronics specialist with Defence Science Technology Group. I'll explain a bit more about what that means in just a sec, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my pathway. So I started with the University of Adelaide in 2016, doing a Bachelor of Science Advanced in Physics, originally thinking I was going to do space science and astrophysics. It's a bit of a common theme. And I started it, and while I still love space science and astrophysics, I actually fell in love with optics and lasers. So that's kind of where I ended up following that path. So after I finished my bachelor's degree, I went on to do an honours Bachelor of Science in Physics again, where I actually got to build a laser from scratch, which was just one of the coolest things I've ever done. So now I work with Defence Science Technology Group. I started on a program called the Cadetship Program. So I was actually able to start working with Defence Science Technology while I was in my 3rd year, and then continue that on to a full-time position now. So an optoelectronics specialist, I basically do optics, I do electronics, and I work on optoelectronic systems. So things like optical sensors. And my job is incredibly varied. No 2 days are the same, which I think is true of most science careers. I do a whole range of things. Some days I'll be coding, other days I'll be designing new lab experiments, other days I'll be managing the lab. There's just so many different things that I get to do, which is what makes my job really cool. There's so many unique opportunities as well. I've already been to conferences. I've had the opportunity to share research that I've done to the wider population. I've been able to visit places I never thought, like I got to go see the shipyards, despite the fact that I'm a physicist, which I thought was really cool. And just so many different things that you can do and a career can take you. One of the coolest things I think about my work is the impact. I can see from the work that I'm doing the impact that it has directly back to the Australian Defence Force. And to me, seeing the science I do have such a great impact is something that makes my work so important to me. So I think I'll leave it there.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. So we had a couple of quick questions for you, just to sort of start things off and get people thinking about the types of questions they might want to ask. So the first one is, since you've had such a varied experience and you've really sort of come quite a long way throughout your career, what advice would you give to a new student who is considering going to university?
So I think the best advice I could give you is just take every opportunity. If you get an opportunity to try something new, just do it. Again, if I hadn't have decided that while I was at uni, I wanted to try all these different fields of physics, even though I loved space science, I never would have found that I actually love optics more. So take every opportunity that comes throughout high school and university. And if you're not getting the opportunities you want, just make those opportunities come yourself. There's nothing you can't do.
That's absolutely fantastic advice. You know, the minute you come to university and you go to O Week and you start going to those first days, opportunities are going to get thrown in your face. All the clubs will be coming up to you, asking you to join the different sporting teams, the different interest groups. Yeah, absolutely. Take it one day at a time and really sort of throw yourself into it. University education is one of those things you get more out of it the more you put into it. Tom?
Yeah, so we might continue along following the slides. So the next panelist we're going to introduce is Jax. So if you could just turn your microphone on and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've studied and what you get up to these days.
Sure thing. Thanks, Tom. My name is Jax, and I'm currently working as a naval specialist marine engineer at Bureau Veritas Marine and Offshore Team. More about that later. And during my university, I studied Bachelor of Petroleum Engineering that I completed in 2017. And soon after, I felt like I completed my degree and I felt like I didn't want to be a petroleum engineer anymore. So I had plenty of like transferable skills. Like I had basic engineering knowledge that I could take over to a postgrad degree. So I got an opportunity to study the ships and submarine designs. So it's a dual masters of marine engineering that I did in partnership with a university in France. So I did a semester of ship design there, and I came back and continued my submarine design here and went back and did an internship back in France. And since September, I've been working as a marine engineer at Bureau Veritas Marine and Offshore. So most of my job revolves around providing consulting services to the Royal Australian Navy. So I'm face to face with the Defence Naval Engineering team and helping them look after the ships. So one of the best things about my job is the diversity of my team. So we have a pretty small team, but half of us are women, so women engineers, woohoo, women in STEM. Yeah, so, and one of my teammates, she has a Bachelor of Arts degree, and she sees our client problems in a completely different view. And my boss is an aerospace engineer, but we're all working in the ship design and how to look after the naval ships. So it's really cool to get different perspectives from different people and get creative and innovative solutions from different people as well. So the other great thing about my job is the amount of travel that I get to do. So since the beginning of the year, I've been lucky that I've been to Canberra like 4 times already. And when I'm on the client side, when I'm in Canberra, like each day is very different. We're running by the minute. There's like high pressure environment and you're like, what do I do next? And it's always about what do I do next? And when I'm back in Adelaide, it's like a lot more relaxed and it's a lot more like take one day at a time. And I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. I know what I'll be doing next week. So yeah, so there's variety of work. So no 2 days are the same for me as well. So yeah, it's fun working in this sector. And the best thing about my job is we're located in lot 14, and one of these guys like right across the door to me, I was just like having a chat at the coffee, and he has a really cool job. He looks after traffic control in space, so that is pretty awesome, right guys? Yeah, so Yes, based here in Lot 14, so right across door from me. So yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of like fun opportunities that I get to see every single day. And a big part of my job is actually cultural integration. Like, so half my team is French, and most of the people have like migrated from interstate. South Australia is like growing in terms of the defense and space industries and many other industries, as we are like discussing tonight. So I think we're going to be looking for a great future here in South Australia. So
awesome. Yeah, cool. We just had one quick question, follow-up question for you. Up on the screen, it says that you actually chose to study a master's degree. What made you want to go into that kind of field?
Yeah, so a part of it was I no longer wanted to be a petroleum engineer, but also like a kind of career stability that that the defense sector would offer. So shipbuilding and submarine building in South Australia is such a big industry for the next 50 years. And we are having an influx of migrants from overseas in these subjects. So we've got experts flying over from interstate, from overseas, and why not build our own skill set to provide for the future. In 4 or 5 years, you guys will probably be my boss or something. So that will be really cool to see.
That's fantastic. And if you guys do have questions, continue to send them in. I'm seeing them all come through.
Yeah, and if you do end up becoming Jags's boss, just remember that she inspired you to become her boss. So make sure you give her a raise and maybe a corporate car with a very generous gas allowance. I got you back. Or electric allowance, depending on where we're at in the time. I'm not going to assume. And last but certainly not least, we have Rowan. So I'll get you to turn your microphone on and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. As you know, my name is Rowan. I studied the master's degree in construction management here. A bit of brief info about my background. I'm a civil engineer. I've always been passionate about construction, and which took me to the Middle East, where lots of the construction activities occurring. Got a brief stint there. Got to be part of a project, large project, which made me realize that it's the management aspect of it, the project management aspect of it, which really, ensures project success. So yeah, the technical knowledge that I got at the university has really helped me in my career. Yeah, so I currently work as a contracts administrator for ICM Construction. I get to involve in a lot of different projects in different sectors, dealing with different kinds of clients, starting from state government, local government, private clients, right down to residential clients, building their homes and their dreams. What's best thing about my job? It's that happiness in someone's eyes when you're delivering a project to them, which they've always dreamed of, and seeing it all on paper and then seeing it in person, it's a different, it's an amazing feeling. So yeah.
Well, that's probably a good time for me to ask you my question then.
Yeah, go for it.
So you mentioned that the knowledge that you've brought from your studies was really helpful, but were there any skills, we've been talking a lot about STEM transferable skills, were there any skills that you had from your studies that were really helpful for you in the sort of first couple of months while you were working?
Yeah, I guess studying at uni, one of the most important things, and I'm sure you'll all relate with this, is time management. Juggling across a lot of assignments, maintaining a job while you're doing it, ticking all those boxes. It's not an easy task, and it's the most overlooked thing, I think. But yeah, talking in terms of technical things that I've learned at the university, key principles of project management. Risk management, managing all the uncertainties in a project. People management skills, which is the most underrated thing in any field. Dealing with people of various, people have different backgrounds, different cultures, different ways of thinking, and bringing that all into that one stream and delivering a project. Yeah, it's this one main thing I learned at university, and I'm sure you'll get to see it very soon.
Now, you all heard that people management is very, very important. So now I don't want to hear anyone complaining when they get a group assignment. That's right, it's important job training. The glares I am getting are frightening. Can we say a big thank you to our panel, please?
Cool. So throughout the night, you guys have been sending in questions, and if everything works as I intend it to, some of them should start popping up on screen. So one of the first ones that came through was for Holly. I know you would like to go on about this for the entire event, but summarizing, what started your love for rocks?
Oh man, I love being outside and I love the natural world. I feel like geology sometimes has, there's a pun coming, a dirty rep about it as being like slave to oil, gas and petroleum. And these are all industries which are still necessary in their own right. But I actually fell in love with rocks for the stories that they tell about the history of the planet. Because in rocks, you can figure out why Antarctica was joined to Australia 300 million years ago. And with rocks, you can figure out what's going on 100 kilometers beneath the surface of the earth. And it's something that you can hold in your hand. And I think you could just holding 1 billion years of the planet's history in your hands is an extremely, extremely powerful tool. And it's something that you unlock through the tools of science. And in geology in particular, you unlock it using chemistry and you unlock it using physics. And I'm really glad to hear people skills because you unlock it in a team, which is great if you love having friends and love having people around. And it also means you have to learn how to deal with people too. So, my goodness, if anyone wants to throw a rock at me at the end of the talk, I would love to keep it and add it to my collection.
Thank you. Another question that came up, and it might be one for Ari potentially, but I'm happy to hear it from anyone. It was about the main differences between potentially doing something like astrophysics or mechanical engineering with a focus on aerospace.
Sure. So mechanical engineering with a focus on aerospace is very much around the things that go through space and the design and build on them, and feel free to elaborate at this point, Tom. Whereas space science and astrophysics is about the understanding of space. So it's more about what is already in space and having that deeper level understanding of the stars, the galaxy, the universe. A cool project that one of our students got to work on after they graduated is they fired neutrinos into a black hole and buried sensors kilometers deep in the ice in the Arctic Circle. And the neutrinos came back to Earth and embedded themselves in the ice and were picked up on the sensors. So they're actually doing an analytical project to determine the properties of what is in a black hole. Another student got to design some parts that were sent to the Large Hadron Collider. So it is quite a different field. You will still get a really good understanding and underpinning in physics though. So if you have an interest in physics, think about the differences. Do you want to know the most about space and what is already in space, or do you want to design and build and be more involved in the hands-on component of space? If that's the case, engineering. If not, science.
Awesome. And this one can be really for any of the panelists. Like, this is a super relatable question. How did you guys, or any individual here, find something that you're passionate about? Because it's sometimes really hard to find what you want to get into. Does anyone want to talk to that one?
I think the way you find something that you're really passionate about is trying as many things as you possibly can. So when I started my degree, I tried space science and astrophysics. Then I tried particle physics. There was some quantum in there with some of my subjects, but I really didn't like that. And then I tried optics and photonics, and yeah, you just have to try, and eventually you will find something that just clicks. And it's so rewarding when you find that moment and you're like, this is my field.
I have a bit to add to that. When I started my master's, my professor's opening slide was exactly this: the goal of your life is to find the goal of your life. So every day I go to work and I think about, oh, I really love doing this. Is this what I really want to do for the next 50 years? And 6 months later, it's probably going to be something completely different. And last year, exactly 1 year ago, May 2020, I had just lost my job actually. So I was going through a bit of like, what do I love to do? And like, it was just very hard to figure out. And I think I still haven't figured out. So it's very, very common to feel that way. Like, in year 12 or in second year of university or your second year of master's. So you're not alone, whoever posted this question. So.
And just building on Jags's point is if you know you're interested in STEM, but you don't really know what you want to do with it, we do have general degrees. So the Bachelor of Science and the Bachelor of Mathematical Computer Sciences, where you can try a few different things and work out what you like. And then you can either stick with that and just adjust your study plan, or you can transfer into a more specialized degree after your first 6 or 12 months. So it's really normal that people don't know what they want to do. If you've got a general indication, pursue that. One thing that is very helpful is if you look at your subjects in science and maths, try and identify the one thing you like most about your favorite subject. So if you love biology and you're really interested in plants, then that's a good sign that that's something you should consider pursuing at university, because there's whole areas of study built just solely around plants and less of the other stuff as well. So just a bit of advice there. Tom?
Can I offer an alternative view on that?
Certainly.
So this sounds a bit weird, but if you're still sort of at your wit's end with what you find, if you can't find anything you love, then think about what makes you frustrated. In society, it's absolutely it's not a quiet thing that we have areas that we need to work on, areas that engineering and science will address. And so if you can't find what you love, find what makes you frustrated about the world, and then figure out a way to use science and engineering to make it better. I was really frustrated that I didn't understand much about anthropogenic climate change, and I didn't understand how we were going to build our cars and make our energy more sustainable. That made me angry and it made me upset. And so in geology, I have found a love in actually figuring out solutions to problems that annoyed me. So if you can't find what you love, then maybe try looking at what you can make better, and you might find a love in that.
Take on that, watch a lot of Netflix documentaries, because that's what inspired me to pursue construction, watching megastructures on National Geographic. So yeah, definitely watch a lot of Netflix. It helps.
Yeah.
David Attenborough.
There's actually a question that's come in for you, Rowan. It's one that I can help answer a little bit, but what did you actually get up to in your Masters of Construction Management? Because you said you studied civil to start off with. I can answer the part about it being different to the bachelor's, but what did you actually get up to in the Masters?
It's more the management side of things. Obviously, as my degree indicates, it's stepping away from the technicality and getting into organizing yourself better, putting into place processes, and removing the risks from it, looking into the future, foreseeing problems, and putting in place steps and procedures to overcome them with ease. Yeah, that's been my experience with it.
Okay, cool. And then to answer the question about what it's different to it as a Bachelor of Construction Management, it just really varies. So the Masters is really helping you transfer maybe from a civil engineering background to going into pursuing that field. The great thing is we offer a brand new degree in Bachelor of Construction Management as of the middle of this year onwards. So it means you can actually specialize in that field without having to go on and do a Master's qualification.
I've been quite enjoying the upvoting and the constant shifting and changing. I might cut in and answer a couple of them so that way we can give the panelists a bit more time to talk about some of the others. So in terms of the crossover between the maths and science faculties, there is a huge amount of crossover. So in an engineering degree, you'll either be learning physics or chemistry in your first year, and that's taught by the science faculty. There's not separate versions of it, so you will be with all the science students. Similarly, if you're doing mathematics in a science degree, it will be taught by the engineering faculty. And there are quite a few elective and optional courses throughout the studies where students cross over together as well. If you're going and doing volunteering at any of our research centres, chances are you'll be working with engineers and scientists too. So we try and keep as much integration as we can, but the further you go into your studies, the more you'll go into really specialized subjects that the other students won't have access to. But particularly in that first year, there's quite a lot of crossover. And then the other one is assumed knowledge. So there are two things that we list on degrees. There are prerequisites and assumed knowledge. A prerequisite is a subject that you must do in year 12 in order to gain admission. If you have not completed that subject, you cannot get into the degree. So that's a prerequisite. Assumed knowledge is recommended, but not required. So you can do a degree if you haven't done the assumed knowledge of physics in this case, So you can still do it. That's absolutely fine. But we put something as assumed knowledge because it will make your life a little bit easier in first year. But if you haven't done it, don't panic. Like I said earlier, we have the drop-in biology, physics, chemistry, and maths centers on the campus. Those are typically the assumed knowledges. So if you haven't done physics, you can go in there and get support during your studies as well. So prereq, required, assumed knowledge, a recommendation.
Yep. One question that's been coming through a couple of times, because it's come through a separate amount of times, I won't put it up there because they're all slightly different, was a little bit about those higher education certificates. So each one of those does have certain prerequisites that you can find out about online. So for the most part, it would be having potentially an ATAR or some other alternative entry methods. That could be like a certificate 4 or things like that. As I said, each one actually has its own different prerequisites. So the best way to learn about them would be going onto the university's website, going to Degree Finder, and then searching in higher education certificate. It'll bring up the whole suite of them. So because there was about 5 or 6 ones asking slightly different questions, I hope that kind of answers the general gist of it. There's a couple more that have come through for the panelists. So the first one that we had up there was, what do you do in your work life? Like how long are your weeks and what do you actually get up to time-wise?
Day to day, how it looks is basically negotiating. A lot of it to do with construction's pricing and scoping out work and ensuring you've covered every bits of what's involved in getting that final product, ready for handover. Interpreting plans and designs, liaising with a lot of stakeholders. Again, this is where people management comes in. Ensuring everybody's on the same page, communications, foreseeing issues in your project. So ensuring, your orders are placed on time, you're well equipped for the next step that you're fast approaching. So yeah, placing orders, always on the phone to people. Yeah, that's
awesome.
Basically it.
So I guess for our industry graduates, what sort of hours do you normally work in a week? Because I guess, students are used to, sort of like 9 till 3:30-ish. But I'm guessing with your jobs, especially with the travel you guys have been talking about, that you might have to do some longer hours. So could you give us like a rough indication of what you'd be doing in a week hours-wise?
To me, I'm really passionate about construction. Hours, yes, they do say a full-time week is 40 hours, but when you really want to be good at what you're doing, it's really not important. If you find your passion, you'll really enjoy what you do every day. So that's my story. But generally speaking, it's about 50 hours, 50, 60 hours. Yeah, I really enjoy what I do. Yeah.
My story is a little bit different. So when I'm working here, like it's usually just like 40 hours a week. And when I'm on client side, it's usually about 10, 12, 14-hour days. Basically, we start at breakfast and we're like planning what's going to be in the meeting and what workshops are going to happen. And even during lunchtime, we're just kind of discussing what's going to happen like today, tomorrow. And even during dinners, it's just kind of like communication, getting everyone on board, making sure everyone's comfortable with the pace that we're going at. We're not under delivering or over delivering based on, or it's kind of like when you're outside of the workplace and when you're doing a casual networking, you're a little bit more comfortable about how the project is going, and everyone seems to kind of be happy about things. But typically when I'm in Adelaide, like it's sort of like I need to even look at the other things outside of my job. So that would probably be like we host these cheese afternoons every other Friday, and it's kind of like making sure that I've got enough crackers for the cheese afternoon party. So I kind of have to look at a few other things that are just not in my scope of like the engineering job, but just making sure everyone's happy wherever we are. So yeah.
What about yourself, Lily?
Yeah, I just want to say, if everyone else is confused of a 40-hour week is a general 9 to 5, 5 days a week. I don't know how many people equate their weeks, at least as a student, in terms of hours. So 40 hours is about 9 to 5. My job's about the same, but I'm really lucky that my organization allows us flexible working hours. So if I'm really focused one day and I've got this really cool project I'm working on, I just really want to get it done, I might do a 12-hour day. But then if there's another day where I'm just not feeling it and I'm really tired, I can just leave early and just make up those hours another day. So my work is very flexible in its hours. There are times where I have to do long or late hours because of meetings and things, but there are other times where, I mean, you're always busy, but you have to make sure that you're taking time for you as well. Make sure you're taking that downtime, because that's when you're making sure that you're refueled to do the best work you can. So my work's very varied, but it's about a 40-hour week, just a little bit under. And my work is very varied. I mean, some days I'll be in a lab doing research on a bench. Other days I'll be doing research on a computer. Other days, you know, I'll be out visiting somewhere, traveling somewhere. So it can be very varied, but yeah, about 40 hours is standard.
And I think you've actually just segued us beautifully into the next question. Now, I'm conscious of time and there's quite a few questions, so we might just keep this one to a simple ratio. What is your sort of weighting of office work versus lab work, practical work, field work, the sort of the hands-on component? Are you a 50-50 or you're 60-40? And we'll also get Holly to answer this as a student as well. So we might start with Holly and make our way down.
Geo is unique, so there's a lot of field work. In my degree, it's probably 30% field work. It's probably 40% in a prac, and it's maybe the remaining % lecture content.
Awesome. Jax?
I don't do much research, but in terms of travel versus, it's about 70-30, I think. So 70 in Adelaide, 30 elsewhere.
Brilliant.
For me, I would say 60% is office-based. But then, you know, we've got projects in regional areas you've got to travel to, and construction, you can't visualize things just by sitting in your seat, you know, and you've got to be out there, see it happen every week, or even on a fortnightly basis, meet people, and, you know, it's really important. So yeah, 60-40, I would say.
Yeah, for me, every week's kind of different, but I'd say a rough idea would be about 60% lab work, 20% office work, 15 to 20% admin. Yeah.
As it's good to see that there's quite a different variety. And I think that's something for you to take away from today as well, is that not only is there a variety in the content that you're studying and the careers that you have access to, but each and every one of those careers has different opportunities for you as well for splitting that practical work, the office work. So if you're a people person, you can try and find a career that is more people focused rather than lab focused. If you just don't like people at all, then you try and find something that's more lab focused and less people focused. So within each of those careers, there's a lot of variety, and there's also flexible options as well. So if you're someone that just likes to go hard at a project, you can do those longer days and then have a bit of downtime between that as well. So it is important that STEM is just as varied in terms of the practical components of your job as it is of the options that are available to you. I'll let Tom go.
Turn my mic off. Yeah, as we're getting a little bit close to time, anyone who's in the room, you are more than welcome to stay back and have some of these more one-on-one conversations afterwards. Just for the sake of expediency though, there are a couple of questions that have come up that I can just quickly rattle through. So some of them have been about entry requirements. As I mentioned, Degree Finder is the best place to get the source of knowledge for that. So one big question that has come up a couple of times is a bit about ATAR, and it says, what's the importance of ATAR? What's the best score to aim for? The most important thing to understand is those prerequisites and those assumed knowledge. There's always going to be a pathway in. There will always be, or on the website, it will tell you what score you can aim for to get guaranteed entry. So it means that if you're achieving that, you'll be guaranteed a spot at the University of Adelaide. But there's always pathway programs. So The most important thing is that you're coming in with that prerequisite knowledge. And even if you miss out on some of those, there's pathways back to that as well. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you might not be getting that ATAR score, or you might be missing some of those subject prerequisites, we're always here to help you figure out those in these situations.
One of the lovely benefits of being a member of the STEM Academy, shameless plug here, is that Liz and our wonderful STEM ambassadors also offer personalized support as well. So you've got the opportunity to come and talk to them when you're doing your university application. So if you realize my passion is this, but I'm not going to meet these requirements, they'll actually help you plan that all out for you. So you're getting that support all the way through the application process, and it's one-on-one personal support. It's not bulk talking to a room. So that is a really good option there. Speaking of Liz, I think we are going to have to stop there. So we do have Liz here. So I'll get Liz to stand up. So Liz will be available for the networking at the end of this. So the graduates will stay down here with Tom and myself. Liz, who is our STEM Academy guru and coordinator, is going to head up out into the foyer there. So if you have any STEM Academy questions, you can ask Liz. She'll also be joined by Dylan. Please stand up, my friend. Dylan is from our Central University team, so he can talk across the wider range of degrees. So if you've gone through all this and you're suddenly going, man, I really want to do an arts degree instead because those guys did a terrible job. Well, firstly, I'm very sorry. But secondly, Dylan can actually answer those questions. So if you've got some questions about health degrees or business degrees or arts degrees, Dylan's your guy. Liz can help out with some of that as well. But yeah, Tom?
So as I mentioned, if you're here in person, you can obviously come and have a chat to us afterwards. If you are not here in person, there are some great tools that you can use to get in contact with us. So if you go and email start@Adelaide or go to the website future.ask.adelaide, there's a whole heap of resources. So I know there was a lot of questions as I saw them all coming through. We didn't get time to go through them all. If you want to continue that conversation and have that one-on-one support, we can continue this online. As mentioned, there are a bunch of different resources and a bunch of other events. So if you are really interested, or you want to learn a bit more, you can go to Degree Finder. The biggest event for the year is always to head out to Open Day. We're doing it a bit differently this year. We're both hosting it online, and we're actually opening up our campus again. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get more information. So if there is something that was really interesting to you and you want to learn more of a deep dive, this is the best place to do it.
We threw a lot of stuff at you today, and you've been absolute troopers sitting through it all. If there's something that you wish you could remember, don't panic. We recorded this part of the session, so you will get an email with a copy of the recording, some links to useful information, including the ones up on the screen. That should be coming through sometime tomorrow. So you'll be able to go back and check anything that you've missed during the sessions. But other than that, I think we are done. Thank you all so much for coming along to the STEM Careers Night.